All right, today we are diving into something really fascinating, a mystery tucked away in an ancient text. It's all about a song that supposedly just can't be learned. So let's get right into it. I mean, just think about that for a second. What would that even mean? We're not talking about some super complicated piece of music that only a genius could play. No, this is something described as fundamentally unlearnable for pretty much everybody on the planet. And this is the exact puzzle we find in the book of Revelation. So here it is, the verse that sets everything up. It talks about a new song, and get this, it says no man could learn that song, except for this one very specific group of 144,000 people. I mean, what is this song, and what makes it so impossible to teach? That's the core question here. Okay, so to really crack this thing open, we've got to go back to the source. The clues are all buried in the original Greek. So let's put on our detective hats for a minute and see what we can find. First clue up is the Greek word for new, which is kainein. Now this is super important. It doesn't just mean new, like a brand new car that just came out. It means new in kind, new in its very quality. So we're talking about something totally fresh, a concept that's never existed before. Okay, clue number 2 comes from the word for learn, methane. And again, this isn't about being a bad singer or not being able to carry a tune. Methane means to learn through instruction, like how a teacher explains math in a classroom. So when the text says it can't be learned, it means it can't be taught. You can't just pass it on through normal methods. And that brings us to our final, and maybe most important, clue. It's the word used to describe the singers themselves, igorasmenoi. It translates to having been purchased or redeemed. So that's the one thing they all have in common. It's not their nationality or their job, it's this permanent status. They are the redeemed. So let's connect the dots here. We've got a song that's new in quality, can't be taught in a classroom, and is known only by those who've been redeemed. You see where this is going? It starts to feel a lot less like a real song with notes and a melody, and a whole lot more like a powerful spiritual idea. The New Covenant song. And bingo! The song is a metaphor. It's not about music at all. It's about a whole new way of relating to God, one that isn't built on ticking off boxes and following a bunch of rules, but on receiving a gift you didn't earn. That gift is grace. See, it's an experience, not a performance. And this really just paints a picture of a massive fundamental shift. You're moving from one entire system, what we'll call the old way of the law, to something completely different, this new song of grace. Let's dig into this a bit. The old way, the law, that came through Moses, right? And it was all about what you do, your works of righteousness. But the text calls the results of that dead works. Now contrast that with the new song. It's said to come through Jesus Christ, and its foundation is mercy. The result? A totally new way of thinking called the mind of Christ. It's like upgrading your entire spiritual operating system. Okay, so that brings us right back to our original question. If the song is grace, then who are these 144,000 singers? What makes them so special? Well, here's what the text tells us about them. First off, they're the redeemed. We already know that. They've accepted the gospel as a free gift, not as a paycheck for good behavior. There's this great phrase that says God has put a new song in their mouth. So they're not operating under the old system of law, but under grace. And in the end, their song is really the sound of mercy overcoming judgment. And what's really interesting is that this whole idea of an unlearnable truth, it's not just a one-off thing. This new song is actually part of a bigger pattern in the text. A pattern of spiritual symbols that from the outside just don't make sense. You have to be in on it, so to speak, to get it. So you can kind of trace this theme through at least 3 major symbols. Number 1 is the new song, which we've been all over. Number 2 is something called the white stone, which is all about a kind of personal, hidden approval. And then number 3 is the new name, which points to a completely new identity that's only understood internally. So the big question remains, why can't you just teach this stuff to someone? Well, the Apostle Paul actually weighs in on this. He says that the natural man, and you can think of that as someone without this specific spiritual experience, can't grasp these things. Why? Because to him, it all just sounds like nonsense, like foolishness. It's like they're tuned to a different radio frequency. And this really sets up a stark contrast between 2 completely different ways of thinking. On one hand, you have what's called the carnal mind, which is described as being fundamentally at odds with God. And on the other, you have the mind of Christ, which is all about spiritual unity and understanding. And the key point is, you can't just educate your way from one to the other. It's described as a total transformation. So let's just step back for a second. We started with this weird, puzzling verse about a song nobody could learn, and we've ended up uncovering this incredibly profound idea about what faith and spiritual transformation are really all about. So let's just quickly recap the big takeaways. First, the new song isn't a song at all. It's the experience of grace. Second, you can't learn it because you can't earn a gift. Third, it's a symbol for a deep internal change that you can't see from the outside. And finally, it just goes to show how cracking open the original language can unlock a whole new level of meaning. You know, it's pretty amazing how one single verse can hold so much depth. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? What other unlearnable songs are out there? What other profound truths hidden in plain sight in ancient texts are just waiting for someone to decode them?